You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good to go, Rich?
We're live.
Okay. Is it live or is it Memorex?
Well, it's recommended.
Thank you for coming to this Wappinger Falls second monthly meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees, July 28th, Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk?
We would like to recognize Danielle Masterson for the events that took place on Memorial Day here in the village. She sounded taps once every 24 hours, and it was really a fine thing that she did, and we appreciated that. Got a lot of fine comments from people in the village that heard it. And American Legion presented her with an award last month, and it was really a good thing that she did. So I just would like to point out that she did that, and she doesn't only do that, she does other things. She does the Wreaths of America and a lot of things for veterans, and I'm a veteran and really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Danielle, for all of that. Okay, roll call. Mayor Serino.
Present.
Trustee Sadati.
Here.
Trustee Ponte.
Here.
Trustee Nesnick.
Here.
Trustee Huber.
He's on vacation, clerk.
Trustee Ruffin.
Here.
Trustee Laricella. Absent. Village Attorney Wallace. Okay, at this point, we would ask Nancy Clark of Casey Engineering to give the board an update on non-water related projects in the village.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Clark, Casey Engineering. We're the village engineer for the village of Wappingers Falls. Thanks for your time. The non-related projects, I'll go through the list. It's a short list, and it won't take long. The boathouse exterior improvements, still following up with Omar from Woodland Manor to have him finish up the lighting there. Most of that construction was done in 2020. It includes the boathouse down by the water, parking lot, concrete patio, site lighting. The remaining work is putting in the parking lot lights. Last I knew, they were on order. Omar needs to check with his electrical subcontractor to see when they'll be delivered. I'll follow up again. Last time I talked to him was 2 days ago. Grease Trap Engineering Planning Grant. The engineering report, including the proposed grease interceptor code, was emailed to EFC, the funder, and also the village on July 2nd for review. We got some nicely detailed comments from Lisa Cobb on behalf of the village. The EFC comments are still pending. We haven't gotten any word back, but should soon. We're asking that if there's any remaining village comments, would you please get them to us by August 4th? We want to be able to wrap that up for you and move to the next step. Bain Park Survey and Master Plan. As you know, we had the public meeting on June 30th at your last workshop. We presented the Bain Park Master Plan layout. In July, the village has been in discussion with Dutchess County Planning regarding awarded CDBG grant funds and is working through confirmation of eligible uses for the funding. The village is also projecting project scope, reviewing project scope relative to the available funding. Casey Engineering efforts will continue following confirmation of construction scope for 2021 and resolution of procurement requirements. I anticipate that I'll keep working closely with Corey and with Cindy until we're at that point. Village LWRP stands for Local Watershed Revitalization Project. also known as the 9-element plan. That project was authorized on April 26th of 2017, authorized by the village board. KC Scope in the contract resulted in the development of a Wappinger Creek watershed characterization and recommendations report, which has been contributed to by the village and the Wappinger Creek Watershed Intermunicipal Council. There's a whole lot of volunteers. The latest draft was provided to the council and the village in December of 2020 for review. At the July 23rd, 2021 council meeting, it was agreed that review and editing of the report and recommendations is nearly complete. The village and KC, we both urge that we're looking to wrap up this project. After completion of the report, there will be one more public meeting that will conclude KC's work for this project. To date, there's been some pilot studies that have dovetailed off from the overall effort, and pilot studies will actually continue after completion of the characterization and recommendations report. The pilot studies will continue by others, and they'll be reported on as follow-up to the report. The last project that I'm going to update you on is the EPA grant brownfields assessment. That work was authorized on September 12th, 2018 by the village board. The scope, the rough scope includes stakeholder and community meetings, Phase 1 ESAs, Phase 2 ESAs, that's environmental site assessment, cleanup plans. The milestones achieved by this work depend on EPA responses. To date, Phase 1 environmental site assessments were completed for the Franny Reese Park site before construction, the Mill Street parking lot, and the field that's located next to the village highway garage. EPA accepted each of those Phase 1 ESAs as complete. Phase 1 ESA was also prepared for the larger bleachery site and remains under review by EPA. KC is preparing additional documentation in response to EPA's comments. That documentation will go out in the next 2 days. We had to order some more coverage from EDR, the environmental resource group that has lots of history. But hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be wrapped up on that. It is anticipated that following EPA approval to proceed, Phase 2 ESA's environmental site assessments will be pursued for the bleachery site and possibly other sites to be identified. The Phase 2 work will happen when the EPA approves it and when the village wants it to proceed. It's been such a long project that we're losing track of having any guess as to when that might be. So we'll keep posted on it. All right? That's all I have.
Just as a comment here, our grant writer and myself on Friday are meeting with, what's his first name? Pavan from the governor's office. He's the new director or person in charge of 5 counties, I guess. And he wanted some insights because he's going around to all the communities. And so I'm going to see, maybe through him and the governor's office, to move forward a little bit on West Main Street to see if they can push DOT. And I'm going to suggest that while the estuary is classified as an EPA concern, that I'm going to ask that he push that the lake be on the top list too, because in short order, we won't have a lake in the next 10 years if we can't get some drastic action taken. And so
Sounds good.
that's what I'm gonna talk to him about. Now, if you wanna make this meeting for Friday at 9 a.m., you're welcome.
It's up to you, whether you want me there or not.
Well, if you could add any more insights to what I'm gonna tell him, I don't care. I think it's a opportunity because he reached out to me. And so
Good.
I'm not gonna pull any punches with him. I'm gonna tell him.
I would say maybe for that particular meeting, we wouldn't meet quite yet. We'll see, what he can help us with and what he would need, looking further into it, and then maybe pull you in.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, good. Any questions about what I presented tonight? No, okay. Thank you for your time.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Good job, Nancy. Resolution. Consolidated funding application for green sand filters project at the Village of Wappingers Falls Water Treatment Facility. Whereas the Village of Wappingers Falls Board of Trustees agreed to support the Wappingers Falls Consolidated Funding application to install green sand filters at the Wappingers Falls Water Treatment Facility. And whereas the Village of Wappingers Falls recognizes the need for these filters as our wells show increasing levels of iron and manganese to the point where only one well is currently active. And whereas the Village of Wappingers Falls recognizes that without the installation of these filters, the village may be forced to shut all their wells down, which would halt drinking water to our residents. And whereas the application will focus on acquiring funding for improving Wappingers Falls water filtration facility, the application expected to be $6 million. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wappingers Falls has concluded that they are in support of the Wappingers Falls application to New York State Consolidated Funding Application Program. Need a motion to approve and roll call vote.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Sidoti.
Aye.
Trustee Ponte.
Aye.
Trustee Nesnick.
Aye.
Trustee Ruffin.
Aye.
Carried.
I'll vote aye.
5-0. Discussion to repeal Articles 32 and 104 of the Village Code since we've never had a traffic violation bureau. Attorney Wallace.
Thank you. In your packets is a memo that I wrote to the board, and I consulted with Commissioner Ferry as well before writing this memo regarding some legislation that is going to be forthcoming to the board for its consideration. Namely, Chapter 32, it's an antiquated part of our code that I'm going to recommend that we repeal at some point in its entirety. And Chapter 104, which is entitled Parking Violations Enforcement Law of the Village of Wappingers Falls, I can let Commissioner Ferry talk about the shortcomings of that particular chapter as it exists today. But within that chapter, there's reference to the Parking Violations Bureau, which never existed in the village. And any reference to it would have to be extracted and modified by a new Chapter 104, which I'll be drafting for the board's consideration. So I sent that email, and I also sent that in conjunction with Chapter 143, which we needed clarification on the some of the parking ordinances that the board wants to consider next month's meeting, and I'll talk to the committee tomorrow. Mike Ruffin is included with respect to that language. But Commissioner Ferry, would you like to talk about 132 and the booting and the parking enforcement?
So I had gotten a call from the court, and I had some scofflaws in the area, like $600. And the car parks on the local streets regularly in violation of traffic parking summonses, but isn't paying them. So I looked up to see how we go about booting cars and found that it was up to the Parking Violations Bureau, which there is none. So if I get that authority, we'd be able to get some scofflaws and boot them or tow them and get that money that's owed to the village. So that was the reason I was looking at that.
Yeah. So because the chapter was originally created by local law, it would have to be repealed and modified by local law. So we'll put that language together. I'll be consulting with Commissioner Ferry, and it will be recommended that the police have that discretion instead of this Parking Violations Bureau that doesn't exist, correct? And we'll also modernize it to include legislation that is more relevant to today's world than what it was in 1978 when it was originally, the legislation was originally passed.
That's done. Probably looking to buy a boot.
Just a comment here. Is this a person who works in the village or lives in the village, or is it?
I think it's,
Or,
I think it's, I really don't know.
okay,
I was assuming it was someone who lived here, but I really don't
Okay.
know. It's somebody that's here a lot.
okay. Obviously, if he's got $600 in parking fines. Okay.
Okay.
So
this-
do we do, excuse me, clerk, so do you want a motion to move forward, or?
Well, what's gonna end up happening is we're gonna table this particular item for upcoming legislation. There's really no action for the board to take. It's just an informational type of thing of what to expect next month.
Okay.
It's gonna be the subject of a local law. We're gonna have a lot of those coming up.
Okay, a discussion on proposed local laws that trustee Ruffin has been working on with others and with the village attorney. The village attorney, you have in your packet, a sample of what the local law will look like once all the information is in. And once all the information is in and they're prepared to establish a hearing, I will put the notice in the paper. So trustee Ruffin, you've been the closest to this.
So it had come to my attention, and I brought it to the board, that when, and I'm not sure how long ago this was an issue, but Reservoir Place was not listed with the state as being a one-way street. So, you know, we started there, and from there we found other issues, you know, things that were hard to enforce, like one-way, you know, only on Sunday regulations. So we had the discussion, you know, myself, Kevin Huber, and Adam Lauricella with Mr. Ferry about removing those one-way restrictions Sunday only. So that's one thing that Kevin was very adamant about presenting to the public. All right, so, you know, as you see in your packet, you know, travel directions on Franklin Street are going to be enforced. We're going to, you know, propose after we get the one-way direction from the entrance to Main Street to Franklin, that additional signage be put at the corner of Reservoir and Franklin Street, and also some signage on Franklin Street, just so that it can be enforced. And Mr. Commissioner Ferry had shown us that you need a very specific one-way sign. Charlie, did you get that sign number that needs to be
It's
put
like
in?
R6-1. John has it. The signs are-
I ordered the signs
Okay,
and they are ready to be picked up tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock.
perfect.
I'll get them. I'll get them and give them to Pete, I guess.
Yeah, I met with Pete and we talked.
Right.
about it.
Correct.
So then, also accordingly, from residents of Downey and Hillside, we've received numerous complaints that, you know, there was an issue on the parking that north side of West Street. So there's already some signage there that states no parking. Charlie, that's from about halfway down on West Street to the corner of Route 9D. Yeah. So and there's an issue with that, with one of those signs, as I understand it.
One of the signs, the placement of it?
Yeah, one of the
There's
placements
one
is
that
incorrect.
faces Street. So the signs, according to the manual uniform traffic control devices, parking signs should face you as you're driving down the street. They should face you this way so you can read it as you're parking. And some of the signs have been installed flat, like this. So when you're parking, you really don't see it. It may not be a big deal, but writing the ticket, it's not a sign that's properly put up, so they could fight the ticket. But is that the part you're talking about?
That's the part we were talking about, where tickets in that area could be challenged. So in order to remedy that and remedy that parking situation, we had proposed no parking on that particular side of the street, on that north side of West Street, just on the south side. So that would alleviate traffic and hopefully, well, it will open up that particular road for traffic.
I've noticed,
Just add one thing, because Kevin Huber was at one of those meetings and said there were times that the fire engines had a hard time getting through there, so that was a big problem too.
That is
Parked on
correct.
both sides.
I've noticed some of the signs turned the wrong way on many streets, right outside my own house. I know on
Yeah, I think
North Mizzier.
previous to this board, it was being done that way for whatever reason, I don't know.
Charlie, would you like to address the board relative to your studies on the traffic on Franklin?
I was just gonna pull it up on my phone, I was looking for them. Yeah, that would be great.
I do, sure. So we have an instrument that measures speed and volume on streets. So when we were looking at the Franklin, we wanted to get an idea of exactly what was going on. We have residents telling us cars are going the wrong way, residents telling us cars are speeding. So to get an idea of exactly what was going on, I put the JMAR device up there. And I had it there for a week. In the course of a week on Franklin, on the part of Franklin that's a one-way, coming up to Clap. In the course of a week, there were, I don't have the, actually I do have the exact numbers. So on Franklin, there were 2,277 vehicles in the course of a week go through Franklin. 1,973 were going in the correct direction, and 36 were going in the wrong direction on the one-way. And the average speed, in the area where this box was posted, the average speed was 16 and the fastest speed was 28, which would suggest there's not a speeding issue there, although it was kind of close to a stop sign because I was just looking at one-way, not the speed. So over the course of a week, there were five speed violations that could have got us at 25 speed. But there is an issue with cars going the wrong way. And I think once we get the one-way signs posted, we'll do some enforcement. The good thing about this is not only do we find out which direction to go, and we find out the times of day. So you can see that some of these are like repeat trips. Probably out of those 32 vehicles, whatever it was, probably 6 people are doing that, the majority of it. They're going to and from work.
Charlie, can you please read the statistics for Reservoir Place, the right way, wrong way vehicles?
So I did the same thing on Reservoir. It was less days. Reservoir, I had it up there from June 13th at 5 p.m. until June 18th at 12 noon. And there were 322 vehicles, 300 driving in the correct direction and 22 in the wrong direction. Average speed was 16 and the fastest was 30, with 4 enforceable violations over the course of all those days. And that one was put up pretty much in the center of the street, right near the residence that's there, past the parking area. So that was a pretty accurate reading on the speeds. So the same thing with that. Once the signs are posted, we'll be able to do some enforcement, and with those new signs, people will know it's a one-way. Really, right now, if you're not familiar with the area, know it's not, it's a one-way, it's very easy to drive the wrong way on those streets. I've done it myself in the past.
So speed really isn't the issue in that area, it's just driving the wrong way down a road.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be any speed problem at all. And we'll take care of the one-way. As soon as those signs go up, I think that's gonna be taken care of.
While we're on this note, did you happen to do any statistical analysis? Because you did have that item on Clap Avenue.
Clap Avenue we did, and I don't have the exact numbers with me, but it pretty much came the same with, it's not a speed problem. So what happens, especially on short roads like that, residents feel like people are speeding in their area. Because when you stand there on the side of the road and a car comes by, it's intimidating, it feels like they're going fast, I know it does. But you know, the speeds weren't reaching a point where it's a major issue for us to do enforcement. But the good thing with this device, what it does, it gives us the speeds, it also does the times, and there's a feature of it which is called best times for enforcement. So we could know the best time for an officer to be there is between 4 and 5 in the afternoon or whatever it is. And it saves us a lot of time of sitting there with nobody speeding. We know where the times are to get the officers there. And so that area Clap, it wasn't a major issue. So the one thing what we want to do at some point, we're moving the flashing speed signs around, the ones that get people to slow down a bit. I want to put those on roads like this for a couple of weeks at a time and rotate them around. Right now they're on Market Street, and at some point we'll get them through to that neighborhood.
I have the map up of the village. I don't know if you can see it, but it actually shows arrows on Reservoir going from Main Street to Clap. Only so to show that that's a one-way. Franklin, it doesn't have it on there. They're only,
That is correct.
it's on, so it doesn't show on the map. So that might be confusing to people too, because this, according to this, on GPS, it shows that Franklin's two-way.
There are people that listen to the GPS and
Not the signage?
Well,
not the fact that everybody.
I'm just saying, like, they could, you know, I don't know if there's any way of fixing that, but I
I
think,
think there was a way to contact them.
Huh?
I think there was a way to contact them to let them know. I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't pick that up.
I just decided to look just now as we were talking, and I just noticed the one-way signs, or the one-way arrows on here.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. In your packet, you'll see an email from William T. Garner Engine Company, number 1, who elect 2 wardens. That was July 20th. Board to accept correspondence, William T. Garner Engine Company on July 19th. William T. Garner Engine Company had a special meeting to elect 2 wardens for the Fire Council. Members of William T. Garner have elected Mike Brown and Stephen Pano as the wardens. I need a motion to accept the correspondence.
Can I ask a question first, before we accept that? You okay?
Yes.
Is Mr. Wise coming tonight?
He is.
He is, okay.
He's here.
Yes, he is.
There he
Ask
is.
you, and you shall receive.
I'm actually fine, so you can go ahead, go forward.
So I need a motion to accept the correspondence.
And one more question, I apologize. And the correspondence is just to appoint Mike Brown and Stephen Pena?
Is to accept, that's already taken place. It's for board awareness. It's the same as we do in January when they give us their lineup of officers.
So it's the board awareness for Mike Brown and Stephen Pena?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Ponte moved.
Second.
Trustee Nesnick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor votes aye.
Carried. Approval to hire Parks Water Department custodian 10 to 12 hours per week per stipend pay, $400 a month. I advertised the job as you requested. I received 1 application. that applicant is not entitled to that position. So, do you want me to re-advertise again?
Please.
Okay. I will get it into next Wednesday's shopper.
Do you want a motion on that in a second? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mayor votes aye.
Okay, we're looking to get a certificate of occupancy for the boathouse for a three-season building. Mayor?
Yeah. Well, what needs to be done at this point, since we're going to be moving forward and we want to at least be able to occupy the building, and even if there's some kind of event there, at least while the weather is still good, we need to have the fire alarm hooked up, and we need to have the electrical inspection done, or him present his findings. The lights on the back don't enter into play for the three-season CO, and they're on back order. So, we believe the fire alarm ranges from 65 to 80 bucks a month to monitor that system. So, we're gonna need at least a motion to move forward for the fire alarm, and we'll contact the electrician for that end of that inspection, so that we have it for Brian. There's other issues that we can discuss about the boathouse moving forward for the full CO, but immediately, this is what we need to do for the three-season.
Okay, I'll reach out to if the board wants me to, I'll reach out to the electrician to move forward with the fire alarm process.
You want a motion for that?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye.
Okay. As you were aware, we had that horrific storm here in the village June 30th. We were actually in this meeting when it hit, or in a meeting like this when it hit. The village highway department has done an outstanding job in cleaning up the stuff that was on the ground. There are pieces of trees, limbs, and things like that are still dangling in different areas. The highway superintendent would like the board to approve having our tree contractor go through, more importantly, Mizzier Park and Vets Park to see what needs to be done to those trees that are still having branches hanging off of them, or they're cracked, or they're twisted, or that kind of thing. Our tree contractor, who we've had for many years, will do that, and he's very good. He'll save trees if he can, but he'll make a recommendation on which ones need to come down.
Before he starts any work.
Correct.
And he'll give us a composite estimate for what needs to be removed.
We can get a detail from what has to take place in Mizzier, what has to take place in Vets, what has to take place in other village-owned properties as well.
So I think when he does this, that he should mark the trees with ribbons or something, so we know if he's gonna limb the tree, take the tree down, so that if we can go back through, take a look for ourselves, and possibly, obviously, get other opinions if it's too broad of a project. You know, I don't wanna just rely on one source to say if this tree stays or goes, because there's a lot of work there. So I think if he's gonna tell us there's 15 trees in Mizzier Park, I wanna know which 15 trees. You know, just so we can get a second
yeah.
opinion possibly, because it's gonna be a big number for the
Two
village.
different color ribbons.
And this is obviously only on our properties.
Only our property, and I think a lot of it's gonna be trimming with a bucket, but there may be some that have to come down. I think the one on the end of Spring Street by Mike Friedman's house, that's on the corner of Vets Park, Vets Field, will have to come down. That's a huge tree. I don't know about the others, but that's a good idea. I'll have the contractor mark everything and give us the location and present it to us. Of course, you would have to pay for that service, but it's worth it, I think. There's a lot of danger out there if you're walking around the park and a limb comes down on you. Okay, is that what you want me to do?
There's also a parcel, if you're coming down past Vets Park, and you're starting on the upcline to the stop sign at Brookside Drive, where the stream is, that actually is village property. So there's some trees in the back there that they were sheared off, I think in the middle of the trees, so.
Highway Superintendent Podgy knows where everything is.
Yes, he does.
Do
And
we
he-
have a cost associated with just the, surveying it, or the,
Not yet, not yet.
okay.
But that was.
Just to look at the trees, not to
Right.
do any work? Do we have a approximate cost of how much they're gonna tell us?
No, but I can talk to Pete tomorrow, just so that, I mean, I think Jimmy,
I mean, I would
Is-
think a
is-
free estimate should be in order, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Jimmy's been all over, I'm assuming it's New England Landscape. Is that who we're,
No,
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 it's
no.
the
so it's not, okay.
older Jimmy.
It's the father, it's the father.
It's the father.
To be honest with you, I just would like to know how much it would cost just to get the estimate of how much it's gonna cost.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fair,
You know
that's
what I mean?
fair. I can ask him for an estimate, and
We're in a lot already.
Yes, yes, we are.
We're in a ton, and I think we kinda know, and I would like to think, obviously, we might not know the life of a tree. We might not be expert enough to know if a tree is gonna live or die after what it's been through, but I think we pretty much know if there's limbs there that need to come down. So I'm not quite sure I wanna pay a lot of money to state the obvious, that there's a tree limb that's gotta come.
I will ask him tomorrow how much he would charge us to go around to the parks and survey all the tree damage and everything. How much would that cost? And then if you like that, we'll let him proceed to do it.
Thank you.
I'll send you an email with whatever he tells me, okay?
Sounds good.
So
Very good.
we won't vote on anything till I get that. Okay.
Well. Okay.
All right, electrical panel that was in Mizzier Park, that green little box thing that they had there that we always had problems with, especially Christmas time, is demolished. I don't want to pay $2,500 to have a new box built, plus probably another couple thousand to have new circuit breakers and everything put in there. So I met with the contractor, our village electrician, and I said, can you possibly reroute some of those wires over to the gazebo and maybe put a panel there, 150 amp or 200, whatever it is? He said, yeah, we'll trench. The only lights I need are really to the Fireman's Memorial out front and to the Christmas tree lighting and to the 911 memorial. So if he can trench, take those wires and somehow move them around to doing that, it'll be a lot lesser expensive. Okay, so that's what I'm working with him on. That's where we are.
Okay.
All right? That's just to update you on what I'm doing with that.
It'll look better, too.
It'll look a lot better, and it'll be a lot lesser expensive, and it'll be a lot easier to maintain for all of us. Okay, Mayor.
Well,
You know, from past experience of having to stand there and hold the breaker up on the gazebo when there's a band there sometimes, it depends on how many pieces they have in the band. Could possibly have the electrician take a look at that and see if it's maybe a better idea to put a new panel in for that?
I want a new 200 amp service panel with all wires going into it to that whole park area. I think you got like 2 boxes over there in the gazebo. We'll take them, route them to the new box, take the other 3 and put them in there, label everything, and lock it, and they'll all be in one spot. He can put it by the shrubs somewhere in there where it's not too obvious, or in somewhere. But he agreed that that would be our best route. Okay? All right, I'm working on that. Mayor, that concludes the printed items. I don't know if anyone else has anything.
Question, comment by anyone else? Yes.
I just have one question about, because the National Weather Service did say we had a microburst come through the village. Could we apply for FEMA funds?
We,
I received a detailed printout of what the highway department incurred as far as cost, labor, time, and material, and the contractor that helped. I have that, and I submitted it to Bill Beal up at 911. He reached out to all the municipalities in the village that were affected by that storm, and he's collecting all that data. And once he has it, he's going to submit it to FEMA, and we'll see what we get. Our cost just for the highway, I didn't get anything from, I don't think the police incurred any cost during that storm, I'm not sure. But just the highway alone was $50K that we hadn't planned on.
and Corey probably has 200 pictures.
Yeah, we took a lot of photos
Yeah,
the day after.
right.
Well, let's keep all that together. I can reach out to Bill and see where they are with the other municipalities and try to get some kind of a time frame on when we'll know if FEMA's gonna help us with that or not.
And we're really not finished with that, the cost of that storm, if we're gonna do more trees that were affected in Bezier Homestead, so.
That's right. And we're gonna have more cost because we're gonna get an estimate, right, for the limbs and all of that.
And the electrical panel that has to be installed,
Right.
part of the package.
It could be another 50.
Anything storm-related will
Right.
be included.
It could be another 50, but he wanted preliminary numbers, and I don't know about the other municipalities. I think Hyde Park was another one that got very close to what we got as far as damage, so.
All right.
Okay. Good point. All right, Mayor,
Well,
I have one item for executive, but that's it.
okay. With that said, motion to adjourn to executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mayor votes aye. Carried.
Karen.